Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai, and welcome to Jagadambe Reads the Holy Books of India, ShrimadBhagavatam94. As you may remember, Bharata, in this incarnation, didn't want any worldly attachment, so he pretended to be a deaf mute, and people called him an imbecile. He remembered his previous births, and he was bent on only one thing: freedom from this earthly bondage. And so, like rain falling off the back of a buffalo, the comments of the people of the world did not affect him in the least, nor did it affect his general behavior. His father was drowned in the performance of worldly duties and worldly affections, and he was very unhappy that he could not make a good Brahmin out of his son. In the course of time, he died. His wife left his son and daughter in the care of her stepsons and their mother. She followed her husband on the funeral pyre. Once their father was dead, the brothers of Bharata felt they did not have to do so much for Bharata. They felt that they did not have any responsibility as far as Bharata was concerned. They lost no time in ill-treating their stepbrother. Bharata would never protest, and that made them happy. They would make him labor in the fields like any ordinary work person, and they insulted his birth as a Brahmin. But Bharata did not mind at all. He would work till sunset and would be satisfied with whatever food the brothers gave him. Sometimes it would be old musty flour, and sometimes he would get only the husk from the grains. They all tasted the same to Bharata, and he spent his hours thinking of the Lord and doing menial work for his brothers. There was a robber chieftain who did not have any children. He was told that offering a human being as a sacrifice to the goddess Kali would get him a son. He therefore sent his servants in all directions to bring a human being fit enough for the sacrifice. They searched in vain all through the day, and they saw that night had set in. They were wandering around. Suddenly, at a distance, they saw a human being standing on a mound. Standing on a raised spot, Bharata was guarding the fields to prevent their being destroyed, be it by a deer or wild hogs during the night. The servants of the robber chieftain drew near and looked at Bharata. He had always been unmindful of the comforts of the body. Rain or shine, cold or heat were all the same to him. He had not even covered his body properly. As he was used to lying on the ground or anywhere, his body was covered with dust and grime. His hair was all dirty and matted. He was like a precious stone covered with clay. His sacred thread was black and dull. Life in the open and the hardihood he had undergone all these years had made the body of Bharata strong and powerful. Looking at him, the servants of the robber king thought he was the perfect victim. His body, though dirty, was without a single blemish, or wound, or even a scratch. They lost no time in making up their minds. They tied him up with ropes and carried him away with them. They were rather surprised at his unresisting attitude when they tied him up. They took him to the temple. He was bathed in holy water, and he was dressed in clothes meant for a sacrificial victim. They smeared sandal paste all over his body, and his forehead bore the mark of the red sindura. They made him partake of a big meal, and then placed him before the altar of the goddess. There was wild music and beating of drums. All the while Bharata sat silent and unaffected. The priest then announced the incantations and lifted his sword to kill the Brahmin. The goddess could not bear the glow emanating from the Brahmin sitting there ready to be killed. His Brahmic glory was burning her, and she came out, unable to bear it. She saw that a great crime was about to be committed. A poor, unresisting Brahmin was to be killed by a group of robbers, bloodthirsty villains, every one of them. And the crime was ascribed to her. She was followed by a group of servants from the heavens. She stood there watching while they fell on the miscreants, killed all of them, and drank their fill of their blood. The goddess disappeared after blessing the Brahmin. And he too went on his way. Sadhguru Nath Maharaj ki jai. Thank you for coming. I hope you come again.